Hi, I'm Rick Conlow. I'm glad you're here. I hope you and your family are safe and healthy. I want to share with you 3 unrivaled leadership lessons. And when I talk about leadership here, it can relate to leading a team as a manager in an organization, or it could be self-leadership, what you're doing personally as you relate to others in whatever area of your life that you work or deal with most often. And I wanted to focus on these unrivaled lessons because, as you know, there's a lot of leadership distrust in government, in business, and we need to change that. We need to have a leadership revolution. So let me begin. The first one happened a number of years after I graduated from college and had, I think it was on my second job, and I had moved up in ranks a bit, and things are going well. And I got a call from my old baseball coach. He said, "Rick, I want you to speak at the Legion baseball banquet." He says, you're doing all right. Come on in and talk. And I go, I don't know. But he encouraged me, so I did. And when I hung up the phone, I immediately regretted that I would do this. And I had a few weeks to prepare, and I couldn't think of anything to say. And in fact, I saw these visions in my mind of the local paper saying, "Hometown failure returns." And the reason it was so difficult is I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, and I didn't make it, and I felt like I failed. I don't know if you ever had something like that in your career. And it wasn't until the night of the banquet, as I'm driving there, I finally learned from my experience and figured out what I had really gained, even though I didn't reach that dream. And I moved on to something else. So that night I shared with those young men the value of teamwork, the importance of working hard and having a goal and being ready to adjust that goal and set your sights differently or better. I want to tell you that was a liberating experience because I finally changed my thinking. It wasn't focusing on the past and what I failed at. I renewed my mind, and that's what we need to do as leaders. And not as many leaders as should do that. When faced with failure, when faced with difficulty, when faced with problems, they seem to be unwilling to adjust the goal, to change the goal, and they just do more of the same harder. In fact, it often relates in the conflict and confrontation. They need to be willing to change their perspective and set a new goal like I did. And we need more leaders learning that today because we're not prophets. You know, things change with pandemics and technology. For example, Amazon has, changed the whole retail market and caused many to go out of business. Only those that are rethinking who they are beginning to come back. So we need to be able to do that in our goals, our plans, our dreams, personally as well as professionally. The second area that I wanted to mention has to do with, I saw the movie Babe Ruth, and it really hit home with me. Then I did some reading on it, and there's a part there that gives us a lesson. Babe Ruth, later in his career, was traded from the Yankees to the Braves, and this aging star's skills weren't quite what they once were. And when those teams were playing, Babe Ruth is in the outfield, and he made enough errors to allow 5 Cincinnati Red runs to score the opposing team. And as Ruth was jogging off the field, the crowd got merciless. They were booing him, they were hissing at him, they were throwing things at him. The negative noise shook the stadium. And as Ruth neared the dugout, a little boy jumped out of the stands. He ran up to the Bambino, his hero, grabbed him around his spindly legs and gave him a great big hug. Babe Ruth bent over, picked the boy up, hugged him back, patted him on the head, said a few kind words to him, and helped him back into the stands. And when I read that, I thought, wow, that's a lot like leadership. Not everything goes well. There's good news, bad news. But when things are tough, and we're faced with crises and challenges in unforeseen circumstances, the true heart of somebody comes out like Babe Ruth. You see, the crowd, when they saw Ruth do this, saw they had misjudged this man. It wasn't his past glorious successes that mattered, neither is present dismal failures. Because here was a guy who was having an awful day. Everybody was on his case, and he could still care about a little boy. And they all stood up and gave him a thunderous standing ovation. See, leadership is more about the heart than the head. The head often gets into what I know, what I think, what it should be, and it's often selfish. The heart is about people. The heart is about helping. It's about compassion. And wouldn't you agree with me, we need more leaders that care, that really want to help their constituents or their team be successful? In fact, that's the first and only rule of leadership, is it isn't about you, it's about others. So that's the second lesson. And the third lesson comes from a story about Alberto Paganini, one of the greatest violin players of all time. And he was given a concert, and he was playing his music, and the crowd was loving it, and it was wonderful. Then lo and behold, the problem came up. Boing! A string broke. Paganini kept playing, a little sweat rolled down his forehead. Boing! Another string broke. The crowd went, oh! Paganini kept playing, and then boing, the third string broke. There's only 4 on the violin. Paganini finished the piece. And then he stepped forward on the stage, wiped his brow, and said to the crowd, Paganini on one string. And he pulled back the dangling strings and played the one. More beautiful music and an unknown piece, because he made it up on the spot. And the crowd loved it, and they stood up and gave him an unending, thunderous standing ovation. And when I learned about that story, I thought, wow, that's about life, isn't it? Boing, 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 problems come up, personally, professionally. But one of the things we need leaders to do, is keep learning. And you got to have the commitment. You don't become a master violin player by only improving and changing and learning a little bit. You do it all the time. And if we do that, when the troubles come up, we're able to adapt and adjust and deal with it in a masterful way. In fact, even play more beautiful music than ever before. So we need that commitment to learning and self-development. In fact, the top companies in the world give their employees 60 to 70 hours of training a year. When I was younger in my career, I had some mentors that emphasized this with me, and they really emphasized the ongoing learning development. I've attended over 120 different programs, 3, 4, 5 every year, to develop my skills and keep learning. And when we do that, it builds in an internal confidence and competence, not arrogance. And we're persistent and determined, and we don't quit. And we're able to succeed even in the most difficult times. So, change, caring, commitment are 3 lessons that if I was to go back in time, I'd say, whoa, I want to learn those even more. And then fast forward into the future, I would say in this great leadership revolution that we need, that others need to do those as well. Wouldn't you agree with me? We'd probably have a lot better leaders, better workplaces, and things would be more satisfying both at work, in our relationships with others. I have this premonition that soars on golden wings. I visualize your achievements and your legacy that sings. I do not know all about your awesome goals or your persistent efforts to raise the bar. I only know you can be the best, if not a superstar. Thanks for coming.